So how about one of those fancy schmancy Julia Child desserts today? Welcome back to Jamie and Julia.
Ow! Bon appetit.
Before we get started, I'd like to take a hot minute and thank today's sponsor, Cellars. Ooh la la! Cellars is a monthly wine subscription service tailor-made to you and your taste buds, delivered right to your door. Ooh la la! You know, wine can be intimidating, and it's fine if we don't understand it. Enter Cellars. So with over 100 varieties coming from 10 different countries, it will be sure to get you over that wine snobbery hump. Let it breathe. So what you do is go to their site, you fill out a quick quiz of your flavor preferences, and boom, magic. You have the recommendations right in front of your face. Even then, you can still tweak them to get it just right. And what makes it even more helpful for an aspiring wino is these education cards. It tells you tasting notes, vintage, the temperature the wine should be, and food pairings. The thing with me is that I love red wine, but I can't tell the difference between a Pinot Noir or a Merlot, no matter how many times I watch Sideways. But thanks to these cards, I can sip my wine in front of my fireplace and I know exactly what I'm tasting. Is that asparagus? So after that, go online, give your wine a rating, and Cellars will then fine-tune your wine for the next delivery. Thanks again, Cellars, for supporting my channel and for giving my viewers a limited time offer of $100 off their subscription. Click the link in the description to get started. In Volume 2 of Mastering the Art of French Cooking from JC, and I've been using Volume 2 more often than the other ones recently because there's just like a treasure trove of recipes in here that I have yet to tackle. There's this dessert right here. It's called Saint-Cyr Glacé, frozen chocolate mousse molded in meringues. And it's combining various components and techniques and things that we've learned along the way. It's combining the chocolate mousse, we've made it, the meringue, made it. And it's like putting it in this honker of a dessert right here. Here is a handsome dessert for those happy times when you can indulge in whipped cream and chocolate. Happy times, often over here, is a mold of frozen chocolate mousse in the form of a cylinder with ribbons of white meringue marching around the circumference. So it will remind you of the tall képi, the decorative hat worn by the officers of Saint-Cyr, the famous French military academy. You can add a visor, edible or not, if you want to complete the picture. I don't think so. Besides this illustration, there's not much to go on online, especially. Like, there's no one's ever really made this dessert, at least has documented it, so I'm going on nothing here. So, well, there was like this video of this little girl making this dessert. She was like a little 7-year-old. She made the dessert. She did a fantastic job. So that being said, the illustration, the hat, the little girl, that's all I have to go on. So it's just kind of like, you know, you can do it, Jamie. You said you could do it. You've done the components, but, you know, if the little girl can do it, get to work. So, we're gonna start off with some Italian meringue. Last time I made it was with those meringue mushrooms with the Yule log, and everything was great with those, with the mushrooms. They look like mushrooms. Anyway, I'm gonna add in 2 cups, 400 grams of sugar, and that's around half a cup, 150 mils of water. And let's get that to high heat. Swirl this around until it comes up to a boil. I'm using the handle. Do not use a spoon. Until the liquid goes from cloudy to clear. Julia says to cover it and turn the heat down. Although, because I'm using the cast iron enameled pan, I think it'd be safe just to turn it all the way off. That pan's hot. I gotta go fetch a friend. Silver Fox. Italian meringue is essentially making the stiff peaks as we always do over here. But once they have been made, we're gonna drizzle in the sugar syrup. I just need to plug in the Silver Fox. Just gonna do a standard bowl check. Everything is not bad, could be better. So I'm gonna add in 3/4 cup of egg whites. It was around 6 eggs. Depends the size of your eggs. Start your engines. Slow speed to start and we'll work our way up. Once the eggs start foaming, pinch of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Foxtrot, Alpha, Bravo, can you hear me? We have gradually turned the speed up to high, and we will keep it there until we have reached stiff peaks. I confirm, stiff peaks. Kind of over whip these egg whites. So I got my little trick here that I've learned where I'm gonna add an extra egg white, and then I'm just gonna whip that till it comes back together. Works every time. That is the best hack in the world. Okay, and we are now back to stiff peaks. In goes half a teaspoon of vanilla. Mix that in for a second. Stop. We need to reach the soft ball stage, which is 238 degrees Fahrenheit. I guess with sugar syrup, the difference between a soft ball stage and a hard ball stage is what, like the color of it. Moderate speed, and I'm gonna dribble this in. Dribble. So we're gonna keep that going at a moderate speed for around 8 to 10 minutes. So when I lift this up, it should be stiff peaks. Draw the spatula through and the walls of the meringue should remain erect, her words, and unmoving. Totally erect and unmoving. Thank you for your service. Now what I find with Italian meringue is that it's so like stable. It's like not going anywhere. It's like I don't need to rush around right now because I know that that's gonna, you know, it's gonna be okay. Now referring to this illustration, the frozen chocolate mousse is gonna be shaped like this. My 8-cup charlotte. So here's the dessert. This is what we're making, and the frozen chocolate mousse is underneath all these squiggly white lines, which is the meringue. So I have to design something that is similar to that. Now, Julia said this dessert will remind you of the decorative hats worn by the officers of Saint-Cyr, the famous French military academy. So doing some limited research here, I think I found the hat she's referring to. So maybe it's this hat. I'd say that's pretty close. So that all being said, I don't need to match the hat exactly, but I'd like to use it as a little inspiration. So I think I'm gonna use a pipe and bag nozzle that looks like this. She says a cantileted ribbon tube opening. I had to Google what cantileted is. It means fluted. So I think this is as close as I'm gonna find out of my collection. What do you think? So 3 cups worth of this Italian meringue into my piping bag. Shh, nothing happened. It's all good. Okay. I have some important measurements made of my charlotte mold on some parchment paper. And yes, I used a Sharpie and then flipped the parchment paper over. And just for double protection, so that I don't, you know, keel over, even though I think that method might be fine, I'm gonna put a silicone baking mat on top. Now I used a silicone baking mat when I made the heart-shaped meringue layer cake, and it was the wrong call. But I think it was the wrong call because the meringue shapes that I were making were really big, and the heat wasn't getting into the center of those things. But what I'm about to make is gonna be relatively small stuff here. Small potatoes, small Italian meringue potatoes. So, but at the end of the day, what the hell do I really know? I don't know. So these need to be no more than 1.5 inches wide and 1/8 inch thick. So really thin. Some would say 1/8 inch thin. And then something like squiggly lines coming up next. I'm gonna take the piping bag nozzle and I'm just gonna kind of make it a bit, just kind of squeeze down. So I know that this isn't gonna puff up or spread or anything like that. So how it looks now is how it's gonna look when it comes out of the oven. So I know I have a little room to play around with here. So the designs are just not there. They're not coming out the way I wanted them to. So I'm gonna go back a bit to the drawing board here because I do want some pretty patterns. What I have here for the most part is gonna work, but I want something to look really nice on the very top. Let's just take the eraser. Let's just take some of that. That's better. So I did get a little creative here. This is what's gonna be on the very top. And one last thing, it's gonna be smack dab right in the middle. And it just looks like some sort of design. Get creative. That is not interesting. That is not as stupid. Do something cool, man. Maybe it's the piping bag nozzle. Just do a spiral thing. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna need a little bit more to fuel my creative endeavors. I'm happy with how things are looking. It looks pretty on the wild side. I like it. Set on the lower and upper middle racks of the oven. And remember, we're not just baking these things, we're drying them out. So it's gonna take around an hour, and that's at 200 degrees F. Clean up your mess, please. You're gonna have to clean up your mess. The meringue was baking for around an hour. Then I turned off the oven and left the door ajar until it completely cooled off. Now we're ready for our decorations. Be careful, they're gonna be very delicate. And they did not puff up, they did not change shape, they remained completely white. Very nice and very fragile. Does it come off the baking mat? No problem. This is a success story. I'm gonna get these off to the side over here. What's next? Well, I know what's next, the chocolate mousse. Right, so we got a little itty bitty saucepan. I think this one's gonna work for what I need. This is 12 ounces, 340 grams of semi-sweet, mostly chocolate chips, but we got a couple other random chocolate pieces in there. But this is semi-sweet. And this is 3 ounces, 85 grams of like an unsweetened chocolate. And these are into chunks. So it's all pretty much broken up into pieces, resisting the urge to take a bite because I measured it all out. Into the saucepan, into the saucepan. Okay, I've read the comments. There's a lot of people getting sick of me adding booze into all these desserts, but hey, I'm just following the recipe. 1/3 cup of dark rum. That goes over top of the chocolate. So I prepped this in advance, but I need my saucepan of simmering water removed from the heat, large enough to hold this pan. Well, I'm gonna remove it from the heat and put it right here so we can all watch together. Okay, incoming. So now set this into this pan. Reading in advance, I can see why the chocolate is melted this way, but it is kind of funny that every time I follow one of these desserts, I'm melting the chocolate in a different way. So this is gonna work. Am I supposed to stir it or? No, okay, so I actually don't need this over here. So over yonder, chocolate will melt, have faith. So Julia wants me to use wax paper. Anytime I see that, I always use parchment. It's so much easier. So fold an 18-inch piece. You know what? Just for shits and giggles, we're making a video. Let's just follow this exactly. So, well, except for not using the wax paper. So 18-inch long piece of parchment paper. Fold it in half lengthwise. And then we cut in two along the fold. Blunt-ended wedges, 5 to 6 inches wide and 2.5 inches at the blunt end. Okay, Julia. I know anytime I'm cutting a circle on the show, someone tells me there is a far easier way of doing this, but how could it be any easier than that? Goes in there, the marker facing down. C'est ça. One at a time, dot soft butter on one side of the wax paper and insert against the edge of the mold. The brush. Take some of that, just like arts and craft time, a little glue against edge of the mold pan. Oh, I see the vision now. This makes sense now. So yeah, just continue around the mold, overlapping when necessary, and there's our little project. A+. I need to put this in the fridge so that the butter sets to keep the paper glued to the mold. Okay, so chocolate has pretty much melted. So if you give the chocolate a few stirs here, while the meringue decorations were in the oven, I had this in the fridge just hanging out. So I'm gonna add this into my Italian meringue. What's left of it at least, which is quite a bit. Whip the chocolate into the meringue either with a balloon whip or a handheld electric beater. A bit of a casual bowl switch because it's hard to whip it while it's in this deep one here. This looks phenomenal. Tastes phenomenal as well. Ooh. Okay. So this can go off to the side for a second I need 1 big bowl. Thank you. Now in this big bowl, I need like a tray of ice. Please? Another one, please. Thank you. On top, 2 cups, 500 milliliters of heavy cream. Circling the beater to incorporate air into the cream. So now that this is doubled in size, I'm going to keep doing this for a few more minutes until the beaters leave light traces in the surface and a bit of cream is lifted and dropped back onto the surface. It will retain its shape. So what I'm going to do is a bowl swap. Meringue and chocolate goes on top. Why? I got to beat this mixture until it's cool but not stiff. So with the rubber spatula, turn the cream onto the chocolate. The creme. Cutting through the middle to the side, flip it over and rotate. Whatever you do, do not deflate the cream. You gotta figure out a way to do it gently and rapidly. Everything is folded together and incorporated. This thing is smooth. Whoa. Spatula drop. Peel these meringue pieces off the baking mat gently. They're very fragile, James. Just like that one that you just couldn't. Pay attention. Oh, always incredibly stressful doing that, but they've been peeled off, but some didn't make it. All right, so we have all our pretty birds in a row. Meringue decorations, my mold, my chocolate mousse, more decorations. So, let's fill this motherfucker. Not allowing it to touch the sides of the mold if you can help it. Turn a 1-inch layer of mousse into the bottom of the mold. With my tiny offset spatula, it doesn't fit into the mold, so maybe if I just take the handle off. All right, so this will give support to the meringues you're going to place against the sides. Arrange the meringues best side out against the mold and upright around the edges. All right, so I'm gonna take another one that is a different pattern and I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch. Oh my God, that was the nicest one. A 1/4 inch apart. Because I broke a few, I have to do a little more than a 1/4 inch. I had a little meringue left in the fridge that I figure, well, that might come in handy later. Well, it does. I'm going to use it as glue. Okay. This is a rescue up for some that didn't make it. All right, so let's get another layer of mousse in there, 3/4 inch thick. Muffed shapes can be layered with the mousse, and you will have some breakage after baking because the meringues will be brittle. And you can say that again. I'm sure it's driving you crazy. It's driving me nuts as well. I don't need these to be that high. So in go the muffed layers of meringue. Should I just kind of break them up like, yeah, do that too. That's a good idea, do that. Continue with filling the mold with the mousse. Pieces of meringue, more mousse. Yow. It's gonna leave a mark. So then we just repeat and repeat until this whole thing is full, right? Great news, everybody. We have officially reached the summit. This is the bottom, so you want this smooth and level. Honestly, that was kind of challenging, trying to fill up that mold and not break those meringues and making sure that, you know, the white, nice part of the meringue is on display. I don't know how well I succeeded in this. Anyone's guess. Thing is, did the chocolate sneak in front of the meringue? I can't tell. You know, for all I know, I unmold this thing and the meringue has all these like chocolate marks all over it. It's possible. All right, so it says to end with layers of meringue. I don't really know what that means. Okay. I don't know what the point of this is. And we have done just that. Right now, I'm just gonna cover it with some good old-fashioned plastic wrap. Nothing left to do but freeze this mofo, so get it into the freezer for at least 6 hours. And it's break time. Oh, it's smoked. Damn. Damn. Okay, so special delivery has arrived right on time, right on schedule. Yes. Yes. Finally. That's what I'm talking about. Really big moment in this show's history. Huge. You know what? Why don't we have some like fancy dessert to celebrate or something? All right, this is chilled. Chilled, chilled. So to unmold the dessert, bend the wax paper back from the edges of the mold. Bend the protruding meringue ends down over the dessert. Turn a chilled serving dish upside down over the mold. Born ready. Yeah. How uneventful. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Did that drop? Ayo! Peel away the parchment paper. I forgot to bend the wax paper outward. Perfect. Crown your king or queen, and then the centerpiece goes into the center. Order up! So that just happened, and let me just tell you this. I think we're all a bit better for it, aren't we? First things first, let's get this out of the way. This does not look like that military hat that Julia was talking about. That's okay. It's okay. I'm not too worked up about it. In fact, I don't really care. It's smooth, rich, and velvety. My fork cut through it just like butter. And with the combination of the meringue, 2 different types of meringue textures. The meringue that was frozen with the mousse has this like marshmallow quality to it. It's kind of softened up a bit. It's really nice. On top is the crunchy meringue. Having both types of meringue mixed together with the smoothness of this mousse, it is a dessert sent from the heavens. I kid you not. I thought it was a little more special with the rum in it. Has a pretty good kick to it. Now you could take it or leave it. I took it, but you could easily just not include it and it'd be just as good. I know it. This thing is melting, so let me just wrap this up. One thing that's on my mind. Wouldn't it be easier just to mold only the mousse, have it in the freezer, unmold it, and then stick the meringue pieces on the outside? That would be much easier. Although it wouldn't be a Julia Child recipe if it was easier. Also, you would miss out on that marshmallowy thing that I was saying. So yeah, answered my own question. This is no good. Dangerous dessert. This was Jamie and Julia. Bon appetit. Au revoir. One of these types of desserts doesn't come around too often over here. Well, more often than you're probably having them, but over here, yeah, it's a pretty special thing. So I just wanted to take it slow, enjoy every moment, every bite, savor it, and I did. And I got a lot left over, so I'm gonna need some help. Hello? She's not home.